You wake up at the same time every day. You shower, brush your teeth, have coffee, take transportation, arrive at work, complete your tasks, return home, watch television, sleep. Repeat. You call this life, but Max Weber would call it something very different. An iron cage. Stop for a second. Look around you. How many of your choices today were actually yours? Did you choose to wake up at that time, or did the alarm clock choose for you? Did you decide to go to work, or did the monthly bills decide? Did you opt for that app on your phone, or had the algorithm already made that choice long ago? Weber, one of the giants of sociology, died in 1920, but he saw our modern prison with astonishingly prophetic clarity. He saw that we were building brick by brick the walls of our own cell. And the most disturbing part, we're doing this thinking we're free. Modernity sold us a beautiful lie. It told us that rationalization, efficiency, bureaucracy, and technology would liberate us, that we would be freer, more fulfilled, more human. But look at yourself now. Do you feel free? Or do you feel like a screw in a giant machine that you don't understand and can't control? Weber called our era the disenchantment of the world, a place where magic was replaced by spreadsheets, where the sacred was traded for the useful, where passion was suffocated by productivity. We live in the most rational world in human history, but also the most empty of meaning. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you already knows there's an invisible prison around you. Stay with me until the end of this video. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, because we're going to dive into a journey that could forever change how you see your own existence. Weber didn't just diagnose our modern disease. He showed us why we feel so lost in an era that should make us happier than ever. The question that won't go away is, how did we become prisoners of our own creation? Society taught you a beautiful story about progress. It whispered in your ear from childhood. Work hard, follow the rules, climb the ladder, and you'll be rewarded with freedom and happiness. The system promised that rationality would set you free, that bureaucracy would bring order, that technology would give you control. You believed it because everyone around you believed it too. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, your colleagues, all nodding in agreement, all following the same script. This is how the world works, they said. This is civilization. This is evolution. This is the natural order of things. But Weber saw through this collective delusion. He understood that what we call progress is actually a sophisticated form of imprisonment. We've created the most efficient society in human history, yes, but efficient at what? At turning human beings into predictable, controllable, replaceable components. Look at your workplace. Every task is measured, monitored, optimized. Every conversation is documented. Every decision follows protocols written by people you'll never meet based on logic you're not supposed to question. You're told this is professional excellence, but Weber would recognize it as something else, the bureaucratization of the human soul. Your phone buzzes. An app wants your attention. An algorithm has calculated the exact moment when you're most vulnerable to distraction. You think you're choosing to look, but the choice was made for you by data scientists in a distant office, using psychological principles you've never heard of. This isn't technology serving you. This is you serving technology. Weber wrote about the Protestant work ethic that gave birth to capitalism. The idea that hard work and material success were signs of divine favor, but he also saw where this would lead, to a world where the means became the ends, where efficiency became the only value, where humans became servants to their own systems. You live in a world of endless options. Thousands of streaming shows, millions of products to buy, countless career paths to choose from. Yet somehow, with all these choices, you feel more trapped than your ancestors who had far fewer options. Why? Because all your choices exist within predetermined frameworks, calculated probability matrices, algorithmic suggestions. Weber called this the iron cage of rationality. We built it ourselves, convinced we were creating paradise. Instead, we created a prison so subtle, so comfortable, so seemingly logical that most people never realize they're trapped. You wake up and immediately reach for your phone. Before your feet touch the floor, before you've even fully opened your eyes, you're already plugged into the machine. Notifications, emails, messages, the digital leash pulls, and you obey. You tell yourself you're staying connected, but Weber would see something different. You're being trained. Every swipe, every click, every scroll generates data. This data feeds algorithms that learn your patterns, predict your behavior, and shape your future choices. You think you're using technology, but technology is using you. You've become a lab rat in an experiment you never consented to participate in, pressing levers for rewards you don't even want. Your job has a manual for everything: how to answer the phone, how to write emails, how to dress, how to interact with customers, how to think about problems. Every aspect of your humanity has been standardized, rationalized, optimized. Weber called this the bureaucratic personality. When humans internalize the machine's logic and begin to think like the system itself, you go to the store, but you don't really shop anymore. Recommendation engines have already decided what you need: your purchase history, your location data, your social media activity, all of it processed by artificial intelligence that knows you better than you know yourself. The illusion of choice masks the reality of manipulation. Even your relationships have been bureaucratized. Dating apps reduce love to swipes. Social media turns friendship into metrics. Professional networks commodify human connection. Every interaction is mediated, measured, monetized. Weber warned that rationalization would invade every sphere of life, transforming even the most intimate human experiences into calculated transactions. You feel exhausted, but you can't pinpoint why. Nothing terrible has happened to you. Your life objectively is comfortable. You have shelter, food, entertainment options. Yet something essential feels missing. Weber had a word for this: meaninglessness. When everything becomes rational, nothing remains sacred. When everything becomes efficient, nothing remains human. The cage isn't made of metal bars. It's made of routines, systems, expectations, and the constant hum of productivity. You can't see the walls because they're painted to look like freedom. You can't feel the chains because they're made of convenience and comfort. This is the genius of modern control. It doesn't feel like control at all. Max Weber saw what was happening to humanity before anyone else understood the full scope of the transformation. In his masterwork, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, and throughout economy and society, he traced how Western civilization had chosen efficiency over meaning, calculation over intuition, systems over souls. Weber understood that bureaucracy wasn't just a way of organizing government offices. It was becoming the organizing principle of modern life itself. Every institution, every relationship, every aspect of human existence was being subjected to what he called formal rationality. Rules replacing wisdom, procedures replacing judgment, metrics replacing values. But here's what Weber saw that others missed. This wasn't an accident. This was the inevitable result of our own choices. We wanted predictability, so we created systems. We wanted efficiency, so we built bureaucracies. We wanted control, so we developed technologies. Each step seemed logical, beneficial, progressive. But the accumulation of all these rational choices created something profoundly irrational, a world that serves systems instead of people. Weber wrote about the disenchantment of the world, the process by which scientific rationality replaced religious and magical thinking. Where once humans saw mystery, meaning and divine purpose in the world, now we see only mechanisms to be understood and optimized. The forest became timber, the mountain became mineral resources, the human became human resources. This disenchantment reaches into your daily life in ways Weber could barely imagine. Your relationships are mediated by algorithms designed to maximize engagement, not connection. Your work is structured by efficiency models that treat you as a variable in an equation. Your entertainment is curated by systems that know your psychological triggers better than your closest friends do. Weber predicted that rational legal authority would replace traditional and charismatic authority. Instead of following leaders we respect or traditions we cherish, we follow rules created by anonymous bureaucrats and algorithms designed by distant programmers. We obey not because we believe, but because the system demands obedience. The most chilling aspect of Weber's analysis is his recognition that this process is self-reinforcing. The more rational our systems become, the more irrational it seems to resist them. The more efficient our bureaucracies become, the more dysfunctional alternatives appear. We become complicit in our own imprisonment because the prison is so well designed. Weber wasn't a romantic who longed for a return to medieval superstition. He was a realist who saw that we were trading our humanity for comfort, our freedom for security, our souls for systems. Right now, as you're watching this, something is shifting inside you. You're beginning to see the cage that's been invisible your entire life, and it's terrifying, isn't it? Because recognizing the prison means you can no longer pretend to be free. Weber called this moment the confrontation between your trained self and your authentic self. The trained self is the version of you that fits perfectly into the system, productive, predictable, compliant. The authentic self is the version that asks uncomfortable questions, that feels the emptiness behind the efficiency, that longs for something more than optimization. This is your crisis moment. You're realizing that most of what you call your life has been scripted by forces beyond your control. Your career path, guided by educational systems designed to produce workers, not thinkers. Your consumer choices shaped by marketing algorithms that know your vulnerabilities. Your social interactions, mediated by platforms that profit from your attention and data. But here's what makes this realization so devastating. You've been complicit. You haven't just been trapped by the system, you've helped build the cage. Every time you chose convenience over principle, efficiency over meaning, comfort over truth, you added another bar to your prison. Weber understood that the most sophisticated forms of control don't require force, they require consent. The he-and cage isn't locked from the outside. We lock ourselves in because the alternative seems too difficult, too uncertain, too threatening to the comfortable predictability we've grown to depend on. You're feeling angry now, aren't you? Angry at the system, angry at society, angry at yourself for not seeing it sooner. But Weber would remind you that anger without understanding is just another form of impotence. The cage wasn't built by evil people with malicious intent. It was built by rational people making logical decisions, step by step, choice by choice, until the accumulation of rationality became profoundly irrational. The question that haunts you now is the same one that haunted Weber. If we've built this cage ourselves, can we also escape it? Or have we created a system so sophisticated, so self-reinforcing, so totalizing, that escape has become impossible? Weber didn't offer easy answers. He offered something more valuable: clear sight. The ability to see the cage for what it is, not what it pretends to be. You are not free, but now at least you know you're not free. And that knowledge, that terrible, liberating knowledge, is the first step towards something that might, someday, resemble actual freedom. Weber died almost a century ago, but he left us a choice that becomes more urgent every day. Will we remain comfortable prisoners, or will we risk the discomfort of authentic existence? The iron cage is real, but it's not unbreakable. Weber showed us that what humans have constructed, humans can also deconstruct. But this requires something our rationalized world has taught us to fear: the courage to be inefficient, unpredictable, unmeasurable. Start small. Choose something in your life that serves the system instead of serving you, and stop doing it. Not because it's practical to stop, but because it's human to stop. Read a book instead of scrolling. Have a conversation instead of sending a text. Create something instead of consuming something. These aren't productive activities, they're human activities. Weber believed that meaning comes not from following the path of least resistance, but from making conscious choices that reflect your deepest values, even when those choices are difficult or inefficient. The cage weakens every time you choose the human response over the systematic response. But here's the most important thing Weber understood: you can't escape the cage alone. Individual resistance, while necessary, isn't sufficient. The iron cage is a collective creation, and it will require collective action to dismantle. This means finding others who see what you see, who feel what you feel, who refuse to accept that efficiency is more important than humanity. Weber called for what he termed value-rational action, behavior guided not by calculation of outcomes, but by commitment to principles worth living for. In a world obsessed with what works, Weber asks you to consider what matters. In a culture that worships results, Weber challenges you to think about values. The cage wants you to keep this knowledge to yourself. It wants you to feel isolated, powerless, alone in your awakening. But Weber's legacy is bigger than individual enlightenment. It's about collective transformation. If this video has disturbed something in you, if it's cracked open a door you thought was permanently sealed, then you have a responsibility. Share this understanding, not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. Someone in your life is still asleep in the cage, still believing that their prison is their paradise. Weber gave us the diagnosis. The cure requires all of us, awake together, choosing humanity over efficiency, meaning over metrics, freedom over comfort. The cage is strong, but it's not stronger than the human spirit that built it in the first place. The question Weber leaves us with isn't whether we can escape the iron cage. It's whether we have the courage to try.